I'm Blight Bingo, and I wanted to make a video on how Warlock can be improved in Dark and Darker. So, what's my experience? I'm a pretty casual player. I've played about 700 hours since last summer, so it's been about 9-10 months. I've played about 700 hours. I mostly play HR. I've played every gear bracket in solos, duos, and trios. But I definitely don't have like 2,500 plus, 4,000 plus hours like most streamers. I do touch grass. I have a full-time job. I'm a casual player. I think the game's really fun, and I really want it to succeed. And hopefully I have something to talk about, a perspective to share that helps push the game in a positive direction. So what's the purpose of this video, and what are we actually talking about with Warlock? We're talking about SDF's class vision. He's talked about Warlock being a two-handed weapon-using spell sword. Whether that's halberd, longsword, bardiche, spellbook, whatever the combination is. Like, you use a big two-handed weapon and you cast spells. We're going to talk about how the kit supports that, places where it doesn't, practical considerations you make when playing the class and build a kit. And most importantly, we're talking about potential changes that can be made to some spells, skills, and perks to further support the vision, and how to disincentivize how the class gets built on a practical level by the community at large. And I'm talking about a very specific build that I call Cancerous, or Dungeon Tumor, and that's the Torture Mastery 325 plus move speed Phantomized Warlock that just curses you up and runs away and you never catch him. So, people hate that build. I hate playing that build. I don't think it's fun. I think it's really boring. And that's why I built the class this way. So let's get into it. The Warlock class, as stated by SDF, is supposed to be the Spell Sword Gish. Okay, so we should be effective with our two-handed melee weapons, and we should be effective spellcasters, and the skills and spells that we have show up as being really strong in the mid-range. So most of our spells are mostly strong in the mid-range. That's Curse of Pain, Curse of Weakness, Power of Sacrifice, Spell Predation, Ray of Darkness. Life Drain's one of our spells, but for all intents and purposes, it's completely dead. The scaling's too weak on it. We're not really going to talk about it. We'll talk about it later when we talk about things that can be fixed. But right now, we're just talking about our actual mid-range tools. This is relevant at the moment. You have heal, damage over time effects that also can heal you with Torture Mastery. You have a debuff. You have a way to clear buffs. You have a Dark Magic Execute if you dump your Soul Collector shards. So those are pretty cool tools, right? You also have some zoning tools like Hydra, Hellfire, and Flamewalker, which, use the ones that you think are best for you. You have a long-range Bolt of Darkness, which is good. Doesn't work with Soul Collector because double damage Bolt of Darkness versus +3 all, probably don't want to lose +3 all for a bolt that's probably going to miss. But, you make the choices you're going to make. So, our spells show us that we're kind of a mid-range, oppressive caster with some zoning tools. And so if we're going to build ourselves to be effective there, our primary stats to be effective as mid-range is speed and quickness. 100% the most important stats for you to build are speed and quickness stats. So those are your spellcast speed, your action speed, and your movement speed. You want to be at least 320 move speed, so you can actually move and kind of control your space. You put out things like Flamewalker and Hellfire to control space. You put out Curses of Pains and Curses of Weaknesses and Spell Predations in order to shift the advantage of the battle into your team's favor. And the faster you can do that with high cast speed and high action speed, the better. The more movement speed you have so that you can position yourself well to stay out of harm's way while still being in a threatening position is critical. And in solos, it's probably even more critical to be faster. In trios, it's probably more important to have more action speed and spellcast speed. But in solos, really, you really want to be like 320 plus move speed. So keeping that in mind, like, it's hard to build these stats to such degree where you can actually still compete in your melee, and you're really relying on your raw stats to keep you in the positions that you need, so that you can get your spells off, so that you can have advantage to walk someone down with Blow of Corruption and kill them in melee. So that's really how the class works. And early in wipe, because you're so multi-attribute dependent, I forgoes like Torture Mastery, take some other perks to be stronger. Like I might take like Anti-Magic and Dark Reflection, and just drink potions, and then still go like and I might still take Power of Sacrifice. I might still actually take the exact same kit, something like this. And I would want a Curse of Pain, Curse of Weakness, pop a Potion of Healing and Magic Protection Potion, Power of Sacrifice myself, and then go walk them down with melee. Like, that might be the strat. So it just all depends. But, really what you're trying to do with a class is be oppressive in the mid-range and then execute somehow, whether it's Blow of Corruption, whether it's Ray of Darkness, whether it's just maintaining pressure. Whatever you're doing, it's about getting advantage and holding it as Warlock. Okay, guys, so I want to make sure that we talk about this for a second. I want to talk about this kit. If you look at it, it's pretty crazy. Most of this is crafted arena gear, or like some of it's supplemented. Like, these are not arena pieces, but basically everything else is. It was made for arena, or it was like a backup piece that I brought into the dungeons. And I built this kit by farming for the first like month and a half, like tons of centaur tails, cyclops rags, spider silks, gold ingots, ruby silver powders, some dark matters. Like, I farmed everything, like 24 centaur tails, like 30 cyclops rags, like 15 spider silks, like 20 gold ingots, like 60 ruby silver powders. So I could craft these kits and build kits very similar to this to run in the dungeon, because I wanted to play the spell sword Gish that SDF said that this is the vision for the class of. So I wanted to build my version of that. It seemed the most fun, and that's where my feedback for this class is coming from. It's coming from the experience of playing this all wipe, and going to grind Demigod and seeing the most troll Demigod reward of ever, and saying screw it. So this kit at a time of acquisition would have been like a 50k kit, like 50-60k. So, and all these stats, crazy stats, everything's on rolls, and I still wish my stats were a little higher. Like, this really isn't effective enough in terms of raw stats to be able to accomplish what this class wants to accomplish. Things like Rogue will run you down. The only things you really beat in this class are heavily armored barbarians, fighters. You should be able to beat a ranger in this class, in my personal opinion, but if they get the jump on you, like, Ranger's probably the best class in the game, and you don't have a great matchup into it anyway, but this kit gives you the best matchup against Ranger that you can get on Warlock. You get the pretty decent matchup into Druid versus other Warlock builds. You have a pretty decent matchup into Cleric versus other Warlock builds. You have a good matchup into Wizard and Sorcerer if you take anti-magic. If you don't, it's kind of tough. I mean, overall, it's okay. Like, you have the tools to win any matchup, but you don't really dominate any matchup except for, like, the fighter matchup. If you don't take Spell Predation, Bard's really tough. Curse of Weakness isn't enough. I think you need Spell Predation to win the Bard matchup. I always lose to Bards. Could be just a skill issue, though. But yeah, this is like a 50k kit, and it's just not that strong because you're too multi-attribute dependent. And that's really what I wanted to mention in this little bit. Okay, so the first change I really want to talk about on Warlock would be Shadow Touch and Bloodstained Blade. So first, for Shadow Touch, this used to be 3 true and 3 health, but it got nerfed at some point to 2 true and 2 health. Some people say that's because of Kree Daggers. I personally think it's because Sword Mastery on Fighter is 2 true damage. And it's another buff, it's action speed, but, you know, for Warlock you get the health. So, I think this was made to make it in line with Sword Mastery. But personally, being a 2-handed weapon user, I think Warlock is totally fine to get 3 true and 3 health from this, especially because Falchion is terrible, and personally I don't think we're ever getting Kree Daggers again. So you give me 3 extra damage on my Longsword, or my Bardiche, or whatever, my Halberd, I think that's totally fine. Also, Warlock desperately wants Ignite. It desperately wants a way to scale magic damage onto its 2-handed weapons without having to spend 15k on a Void Blade. Or, you know, an alternative to Crystal Sword, but mostly so you don't got to spend 15k on a Void Blade. That could be alleviated by making Bloodstained Blade do magic weapon damage. And personally, I think it would be best if you had Shadow Touch make Bloodstained Blade do magic weapon damage when cast on self. That way you don't lose the interactivity of this being okay for casting on your rogue or ranger teammate in an opportune situation. But it would give you some more flexibility. Like, you would actually think about taking Bloodstained Blade. And versus right now, it's just you'd never do. Yeah, so Bloodstained Blade, it would give you a little bit more flexibility, especially with your stats. Like, strength would be less necessary because you'd be able to scale your damage with your true magic. You'd be able to scale it with your magic damage stats, and it would be, you know, you would have the choice really between doing the magic damage or strongly buffing yourself with physical melee stats, and both would be viable. Now, taking both, like, it's scary trying to balance for both, right? But, you know, I don't know if that's something we should worry about. Having the option to do one or the other should be, I think, how it's balanced. But that would be the change Shadow Touch. 3 true magic, 3 health, and allowing Bloodstained Blade to become magic weapon damage on self. You know, Warlock also has possibly the best perk in the game in Torture Mastery. Unfortunately, it makes you even more multi-attribute dependent. You need to build magical healing on this, on a class that already is multi-attribute dependent. It's not the best thing ever. And magical healing gear is really expensive. So, while this is really good, it's really expensive to build. And you basically need perfect stats if you're going to run Torture Mastery. Um, that being said, there is one torture mastery change I think we could see that could be positive, and that's interoperability between Curse of Weakness and Curse of Pain. I think it'd be really cool to have Curse of Weakness give Curse of Pain's heal over time under Torture Mastery a 50% bonus. Not Power of Sacrifice, just Curse of Pain. Because when you look at the Torture Mastery description, it is the curses that you inflict upon enemies restore health to the caster with each instance of damage dealt. Thing is, Power of Sacrifice isn't a curse. Curse of Weakness is. So if Curse of Weakness made this do more damage, technically this is doing damage, right? So if it makes Curse of Pain's ticks do more damage, then why can't it give you a healing buff? I think a change like that could be really, really cool, and it could alleviate the need to take Power of Sacrifice on Torture Mastery builds. It could give you some more flexibility. You know, just maybe some crazy thinking, but something I wanted to put out there. Okay, so the next perk I really want to talk about in terms of a rework would be Curse Mastery. So Curse Mastery gained 30% duration towards all curses you cast. Pretty decent. Bad for damage, but in terms of giving you bigger windows, it's decent. So that would turn Curse of Pain into 11, Weakness into 15, and Power of Sac into 15. Personally, I think Power of Sacrifice should also give 15 agility. I think 3 magical damage per second as against a 15 strength, 15 vigor, so 30 health buff is not great if you're going to self-cast. But if you give this 15 agility, then you get some move speed out of it too, and a little bit of action speed. So the 3 damage per second would be a little more bearable, and you could actually buff yourself with it, a little more effectively. It also make you second guess throwing a Power of Sacrifice on a barbarian or a fighter. Like you give them 15 agility and you're in range, like you're in that mid range, you might be absolutely cooked if you do that. So I think this might give Warlocks something else to think about. Like, do I want to put this dot on them? Do I want to buff myself? Like, what's my best use situation here? Like, do I want to get out of dodge? Is this the time to walk them down? Like, what am I doing in this spot? And instead of just blindly throwing your curses on and then phantomizing away. Doesn't really affect you putting it on a mob unless you put it on like a nightmare mob. But if you put it on a mob to heal yourself, it's probably not going to change much of your use there. But it could definitely make you want to cast as a self buff more, and it could definitely make you more hesitant to throw it on a martial class that you're fighting. So I think it would make the spell more interesting if it had 15 agility. And now for the interop with Curse Mastery, I think Curse Mastery should make this do 2 magical damage per second to self. So it would nerf the damage that you do to yourself with Curse Mastery on your Power of Sacrifice. Which would mean, okay, now I take 1 potion and it mostly counters the damage from Power of Sacrifice. I drink 1 magic protection potion and I'm pretty okay with the damage from Power of Sacrifice ticking on that. Like, having a little bit more flexibility to self-buff with this would be nice for Warlock. Because if you think about it, like, Barbarians just get the ability. They get the 15 strength, they get the health, and they get the move speed. They get 12% move speed. I'm asking for 15 agi, which is like 4% move speed, right? Like, we're not asking for a huge thing, we're just asking for like a little bit to make this buff worth the magic damage that we're casting on ourselves. So if anyone has a big issue with that, please say something. But I think Warlock kind of needs something like this if we're going to realistically be a Gish, just realistically be a Gish class. Okay. Now into some other spells. Life Drain. Life Drain needs a scaling change. Make it like 3 base damage and like 1.0 scaling. We're fine. Life Drain needs to have decent scaling. Even start it at 1 and do 1.0 scaling. But make this scale on scaling well. Because we get most of our damage from True, and we get most of our damage from our magic casting implement. So our magic power bonus is almost irrelevant. Like, this needs to do moderate damage per second, and if you let us move a little bit while we're using it, it's viable. It's never going to be as good as Torture Mastery unless you make the scaling just out of this world, because Torture Mastery you can fire, forget, run away, and hide. Life Drain, you'll never be able to do that. So letting this be viable, I think, is necessary for Warlock. Otherwise, like, the only builds you have end of wipe is like Torture Mastery, and I don't think that's right. I don't think there should be like a mandatory perk for any class. Right now, it is Torture Mastery, and it's largely because Life Drain's completely unviable. Please improve the scaling on this. You can go ahead and lower the base damage, but the scaling needs to be significant so that it's usable. You know, nothing else to say. But if you let me move around like I can with Lightning Bolt and with Ray of Darkness, like, that'd be cool too. I don't think there's any reason why this needs to root you into place. No matter if you have a slow movement, it's still not going to be as good as the healing off Torture Mastery. It's just not. No matter what, like, unless you made this like 2.0 scaling or like 5 or 6 base damage with like 1.0 scaling, so I can get to like 17 magic damage per second, that'd be a little crazy. But like, let me get this up to like 12, 14 damage per second and healing per second is not insane. Some better scaling would be much appreciated. And Eldritch Shield needs a complete rework. It needs to get some significant boosts from Soul Collector, boost up to 50, even 75 magical damage from the Soul Collector shards, and make the dark magic damage bonus 100%. If you use Soul Collector shards. 50 base, make that the 3rd Soul Collector shard, bump that up to 100%. Give it an 8-second window, and then make the first 2 dark shards turn this from 25 to 50, or like 25 to 40, and then like 60, like 25 to 45 to 65, or like 25 to 50 to 75. I don't care. Needs a huge buff. 50 damage for plus 3 all, magic damage for plus 3 all, probably fine. Because I think 75 is fine. If I am going to spend 12 health, lose plus 3 all, I'd better be able to power sacrifice myself for no cost, and have it, and not be worried that it's going to break the Eldritch Shield. Personal opinion, but Iz needs to be significantly buffed. There's no reason drinking a potion should be better than casting a spell. It shouldn't. Any potion, any magic protection potion I drink is better than using this spell. Flat better. And it shouldn't be that way. This spell should be better than the equipment. Okay, back to perks and skills. Malice. This is, I can almost say for certain, the worst perk in the game right now. Even if you made this just flat 10 will bonus, like not 10% will bonus, like give me just 10 will, I still probably wouldn't take it. But I mean, it'd be better than this. So this needs a dramatic rework. This is like, you may as well not even take a perk if you're going to take Malice. Okay. Dark Reflection, the scaling can go up. It can go up to 1. It'd be fine. Dark Enhancement could use a buff. It's really only good if you're trying to use Ray of Darkness to execute somebody. And with the amount of damage you can scale on it with strong weapons and stuff, like with this, if I had a Phoenix Choker, on instead, and I had this Manosphere 7, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 15. So it'd be at 27, 54, would be the doubling with the Soul Collector, would be 54. It'd be like almost 60. You get up to almost 60 damage on Ray of Darkness, but that's per second. But that's really the only use case for Dark Enhancement right now, so I'm not sure what to do about that personally. Okay, now to talk about skills. So there are only 2 skills I really want to talk about in terms of buffing and changing. I'm going to ignore Blood Pact. I'm going to ignore Blow of Corruption outside of just saying that Blood Pact is an ability that lets you stat check, be a beast in melee, and be a frontliner in a buff ball comp. Sick. Not interested in talking about it right now. Too complicated to talk about right now. And Blow Corruption is pretty simple. Spike melee damage, reduces healing on the opponent, gives you if you don't kill outright with like a 2-hit from Blow of Corruption, then you have this big window to keep pressure on and go get the kill. So really strong. It's a skill I most often take. The 2 skills I want to talk about changing are Dark Offering and Phantomize. Dark Offering is potentially really cool, but you have to take like a super specific build to make it work, and it's really micro intensive, and you really have to be on top of it. The idea of like using your team to manage your health pool so that you can maintain a 50% magic damage bonus and physical damage bonus is cool. Can let you really wreck some shit, but the base duration is too short and the base cooldown is a little too long. Like if you made the base cooldown a little shorter and the base like duration a little longer, it could make building for it a lot less onerous, and it could see some more play in duos and trios. So like if this got a little bit of an adjustment to make it a little bit easier to use, I think it'd be good without making it really overpowered. I think that's the only real change that it needs to see. Okay, next we talk about Phantomize. So I think Phantomize needs complete rework. Okay, so it has a 6-second duration. Let's say I'm playing trios and I have a wizard on my team, so I take buff duration versions of this, and now all of a sudden I have 34% buff duration, and because I want Ignite to last for 15 seconds instead of 12. So now I have that, and I go to my Phantomize, and now it lasts for 8+ seconds. If I pop Phantomize, one of my teammates is probably dead in that 8-second window. So in a trio setting, it's not super valuable, and that 5% move speed bonus isn't getting me away from anything because I can't put my weapon away, and that 5% move speed, like in trios, people are running tons of move speed, like you're not getting away from anybody. So what I think could be a lot cooler and a lot better and a lot more interesting for a Gish Spellsword type character would be if Phantomize had 2 charges for like 2.5 seconds and gave 15% move speed bonus. And I could put my weapons away. If I could do all that shit, Phantomize would be sick. Because what it would do is then I could bring my weapon in, I could go in for a trade, realize, oh, I'm fucked, pop Phantomize, get a little bit outside of range, and just like have a quick little reset. And if I really fucked it up, I pop both my Phantomizes and I can get out of there. But what it would make a lot harder is the curse up, runaway, Phantomize build. Like Phantomize would have a lot less synergy with the Dungeon Tumor build. With Occultist Hood, Mystic Gloves, Mystic Vestments, Loose Trousers, Lightfoot Boots, 325 plus move speed Warlock. It would have a lot less synergy with a build like that, and it would have a lot more synergy with, a build that goes into melee and is trying to win melee trades. I'm not saying you should be actionable out of it or anything like that. You don't need to be able to cast spells out of it like Dreamwalk, but to make it be 2 seconds with a big move speed bonus, and to be able to like swap your weapons while you're in it would make this a lot less toxic for the community to deal with, in my opinion. But that's it. That would be my suggestion. 2 charges, 2 seconds, 15% move speed. Let me swap my weapons or put them away, and Phantomize is fixed. And it supports these hybrid, interesting playstyles more than, TM, Curse Up, and Kite and Run.
I know this is starting to get a bit rambly, but I want to get this point out. When you have a class that is so dependent on so many stats and doesn't have, like, being dependent on 6 stats, like needing to build 6 different stats is just too much. None of the melee classes or even the caster classes need that. Wizard builds like 3, maybe 4. Fighter builds 4 at most. Like, it's too mad. It's too multi-attribute dependent. Having, and I think one of the biggest things that could change that is the Shadow Touch Bloodstained Blade interop to make it magic weapon damage on self. If you did that, you could relatively safely dump strength, and so you can supplement your true magic damage onto your melee weapon. And if your class can do that without spending 15k on a Void Blade, it would do a lot to create build variety on Warlock, because unfortunately builds like this are kind of weak and don't see enough play, even though they're really interesting. So that's about it. Thanks for your time. Hope this video was insightful, and please share this with the devs, especially SDF and Terry, if possible. If anybody, share this with the community. Like, this is here to open discussion. I'd like to see more videos like this for every class in the game. I don't have 700 plus hours on every class. I do, because I do in fact touch grass, like I mentioned earlier. But, it's just, I want the community to more focus on constructive criticism and feedback, and not just being reactive and hating. There are a lot of content creators out there that are like that. I don't want this to be negative. I want this to be like just thinking about the systems that are in the game, thinking about how stuff interacts with each other. Can be really helpful for the developers. Like, this type of feedback, I hope, is really helpful and constructive at the end of the day. I really would like this game to succeed for a long time. I would love to be able to come back in and hop into the dungeons with the homies once in a while. I hope the next wipe goes great, especially with no trade market for 2 to 4 weeks. I think that's a huge part of the game. Like, it's huge untapped potential in the game. And I hope we get a self-found only mode. Like, I would be fine with the trading post, like, with being just gone, just getting rid of the trading market, or at least like making it to where you can't trade gear on there. You can only trade like gems, crafting materials, stuff like that, and then giving us more crafting materials and making more loot drop in the dungeon. That's useful. It would be really, really cool. There's a lot of content creators like Sparky Kawa and like the lore talking about how the dungeons systems can be improved. Most of my thoughts in this game is like, how can I make Warlock play the way I want it to? So I thought that, or how SDF wants it to play, seemingly. So I think that if you want more discussion on those topics, please go look at their videos. Go look at Sparky's videos. Go look at the Lore's videos. Go look at Kazaren's videos. If you want to get better at the game, those are all good people to go listen to. 100K is great. There's so many good YouTubers out there, some really bad ones too, but you know, I hope everyone enjoys the game. I hope any content that's being produced for this game goes to making it a better experience for everyone. And unfortunately, I won't be playing much next wipe. It has nothing to do with the state of the game. It has to do with my personal life and not having enough time. But I hope that everybody playing the next wipe has a great time. I hope it leads to an improved game experience for everybody. And I wanted to push this video out and get this out before the wipe to potentially hopefully influence some balance changes before the wipe, or to influence the balance changes that will inevitably come with the wipe patch. So again, everyone, good luck in the dungeons. Hope you guys have a great time, and hopefully I'll see you in there.